I still remember the sound that night. That cold click of the ignition right before everything in my life flipped upside down. I didn't know it yet, but that engine wasn't just starting a car. It was starting the worst night of my life. You're watching Tales from the Block. Hit that like button and subscribe. I got real stories from the streets for you. Money. That's what it always comes down to in the hood. Money and survival. And I ain't had much of either. See, I wasn't no gangster, not like the ones I grew up around. I just lived next door, Tim. You learn quick in South Central. Either you play the game, or you get played. My mom's was behind on rent again, and my little sister needed her school money. I've been job hunting for weeks, but nobody's hiring a kid with tattoos and a criminal cousin on his record. So when my boy CeeLo hit me up talking about a quick lick, easy money, no guns, no drama, my broke ass listened. Just a car, he said over the phone, his voice low and slick. It's sitting in some driveway near Rosecrans. All you gotta do is drive it out, park it behind a liquor store on 89th, and walk away. That's it. Ten raks, bro. Ten kropka. $10,000 for one night's work. Sounded like a miracle. Sounded like a setup too, but I didn't care. I told myself it was just a car. Nobody gets hurt. I told myself it was the last time I'd ever do something like this. Funny how we always say the last time, right before the worst one. That night, the air felt heavy. Sirens echoed somewhere down Florence Avenue, and the sky glowed that weird orange from the streetlights bouncing off the smog. I walked through the alley, gloves in my pocket, hoodie up, heartbeat pounding like I was about to rob God himself. The car was right where he said, black Dodge Charger, shiny, mean-looking, like it belonged to somebody who didn't take no for an answer. No alarm, no lights flashing, just sitting there under a busted street lamp. I remember my hands shaking as I pulled the wires under the steering column. It wasn't my first time, but this one felt different, like the city was holding its breath, watching me. When the engine roared to life, my heart nearly jumped out my chest. I slid into the driver's seat, wiped the sweat from my face, and pulled out slow. My fingers gripped the wheel tight. 10 racks. I kept repeating. Just 10 racks. I turned the corner onto Central Avenue, the bass from some car booming in the distance. I was 2 blocks from a drop spot when I smelled something, cologne. Not mine. Strong. Expensive. Then I heard it. The sound of leather shifting in the back seat. I froze. My rearview mirror caught a shadow moving behind me. Before I could even breathe, a voice came low and calm. Keep your hands where I can see them. Cold steel pressed against the side of my head. My throat closed. My stomach dropped. Drive, the voice said. I didn't move. Couldn't. I said drive, lil man. I swallowed hard and nodded. My foot pressed the gas, slow and shaking. He leaned forward from the shadows. I caught a glimpse. Dark skin, red hoodie, gold chain glinting under the dashboard light. Red cap pulled low over his eyes. His voice was deep but calm, like he'd done this 100 times. Who sent you? He asked. I don't know, man, I stammered. I just got a job. Said move the car, that's it. He let out a low laugh. Not friendly, not angry, just cold. Yeah? You one of them little runners off Rosecrans, huh? Think you hitting a lick, but don't even know whose car you touching. I didn't answer. Couldn't think. He leaned closer, gun still at my head. Let me make this easy for you. You tell me who paid you, and maybe I don't blow your brains all over this seat. My voice cracked. I swear, man, I don't know his real name. He just said call him CeeLo. For a second, the man went silent. Then he leaned back, laughing quietly to himself. CeeLo, that goofy little crip still breathing, huh? I didn't understand what that meant, but I could tell it wasn't good. He tapped the gun against my temple. Keep driving. Left on 92nd. I obeyed, sweat running down my face. My mind was spinning. Every story I'd ever heard about people disappearing. About gang wars. About dudes who got caught in the wrong car at the wrong time. Please, man, I said, my voice trembling. I ain't got nothing to do with this. I just needed the money. He leaned forward again, this time looking straight into my eyes through the rear view. You ever heard of Red Eye? I blinked. The name hit me like a gut punch. Even if you weren't in the streets, you'd heard that name. Red, I was a blood shot caller, a legend in South Central. The type of man whose name carried weight in every alley and trap house. I swallowed hard. You him. He smirked. You catch on quick. Yeah, that's me. And you just stole my damn car. The way he said it, calm, no anger, just truth, made it worse. My stomach turned cold. I didn't know, man, I swear. He cut me off. Relax, lil homie. If I wanted you dead, we wouldn't be talking right now. That didn't make me feel better. I kept driving, following his directions through side streets until we pulled into an old parking lot behind a half-abandoned laundromat. The lights flickered overhead. Cut the engine, he said. I did. The silence hit like a punch. He leaned forward, pressing the gun lightly against my shoulder. You got heart, I'll give you that. Most fools would have crashed the second they heard me breathe. I didn't know if that was a compliment or a warning. Then he leaned closer, his tone dropping low. Now listen careful. The dudes who sent you, they ain't just random hustlers. They work for someone who's been trying to get to me for months. Thought they was slick, using a desperate kid as bait. My head spun. Bait? Yeah, you was never supposed to make it to the drop, homie. They was waiting there, ready to light this car up soon as you parked it. You'd be dead, I'd be gone, and they'd get paid. My chest tightened. You saying they wanted me to die? He nodded slowly. Collateral damage. Happens every day out here. I sat there in silence, heart pounding. I didn't know what to say. The night air felt heavy, like the whole city was pressing down on me. He finally lowered the gun, resting it on his knee. Now here's what we gon' do. You drive, I watch. We find out who these fools are, where they at. You help me, and I make sure you walk away breathing. You cross me, he smiled faintly. Well, you won't. Every part of me wanted to say no, to run, to scream. But one look at that gun, at his cold calmness, I knew I didn't have a choice. I nodded. All right, good, he said, settling back in his seat. Welcome to the real South Central, lil man. We drove through the back streets for what felt like hours. The city looked different at night, not the one you see in movies. Out here, it's all cracked sidewalks, barking dogs, porch lights flickering behind metal gates, and faces that watch you from the dark. Every few blocks, Red, I made me turn off the headlights. Cops don't see what's dark, he said. He knew these streets like he built them himself. Every turn, every shortcut, it was muscle memory. Finally, he told me to pull up behind a liquor store on Wilmington Avenue. This where your people told you to drop it off, right? I nodded. He grinned slow. Perfect. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, then dialed someone. I could hear the tension in his voice shift. Calmer now, but deadly quiet. Yo, Ghost. Yeah, it's me. Nah, I'm good. Listen, I need eyes on the spot behind Big Mike's liquor. I think them boys moving tonight. Yeah, send Tiny and Dre with the straps. He hung up, leaned back, and sighed like a man settling in for war. Then he looked at me. You smoke? I shook my head. He shrugged, lit a cigarette anyway. The flame from his lighter lit his face. Red cap low, eyes sharp, a small scar under his jaw. There was something about him that scared me and fascinated me at the same time. You from around here? He asked. Born and raised, I said quietly. Down by Elm Street. He chuckled. Elm, huh? That's Crip turf. Explains the nerves. I ain't bang, man, I said quick. Never did. He looked at me for a long second, smoke curling out his nose. Then why you out here stealing cars for gangbangers? That question hit me harder than I expected. I didn't have an answer that made sense. Not to him, not to myself. Guess I just got tired of watching my mom struggle, I said finally. I thought maybe one quick job could help. He nodded slowly. That's what they always say, lil homie. One job, one quick move. That's how it starts. But once you cross that line, the streets start talking. They remember your name. Something about his voice, calm, reflective, tired, made me realize he wasn't just warning me. He was talking about himself. Before I could reply, his phone buzzed again. He looked down, frowned. Shit, they on the move. He turned to me, eyes sharp again. Buckle up. What's happening? I asked. He pointed toward the rear view. You about to find out who wanted you dead." I glanced back. Two black SUVs had just turned the corner, creeping slow, lights off. My stomach dropped. "Those them?" "Yeah," he said, loading his pistol. "And we ain't waiting for introductions." He leaned forward, slammed his hand on the dashboard. "Go." I hit the gas, tires squealing. The Charger shot forward down the narrow street, headlights bouncing off graffiti-tagged walls. The SUVs roared behind us, engines growling, their beams flashing like predators in the dark. Bullets shattered the back window. I ducked instinctively, glass raining over us. Red Eye cursed, firing back through the rear window. "Keep it straight," he yelled. I swerved, heart hammering so hard I couldn't breathe. The smell of gunpowder filled the car, smoke curling in the air. He fired again, calm, precise. One of the SUVs veered off, crashing into a trash bin. The other kept coming. "Left. Now," he shouted. I spun the wheel, cutting into an alley so tight the mirrors scraped the walls. Sparks flew. We burst out onto another street, tires screeching. The SUV was still behind us. Red Eye reached over, yanked the handbrake, and spun us into a hard turn, the kind you only see in movies. The Charger skidded sideways, headlights blinding the pursuers. He fired twice more. The SUV lost control, slammed into a parked truck. Silence. My ears rang. My chest heaved. I looked over at him. Calm, eyes cold, smoke from his gun drifting out the shattered window. He holstered the weapon and glanced at me. "See? I told you. Welcome to the real South Central." I stared at him, still shaking. What the hell did I just get into? He looked out the window, his reflection caught in the broken glass. "Something bigger than you think, Lil Man. And now, you in it with me." That was the first time I realized the streets don't let you choose your battles. Sometimes they choose you. And that night, mine had just begun. The smell of burnt rubber and gunpowder hung heavy in the air. My hands were still shaking on the steering wheel, eyes wide, pulse racing like my heart was trying to escape my chest. The Charger's engine hissed, smoke leaking from under the hood. Red Eye looked calm, almost bored, like he'd just finished a regular night shift. "Pull in there," he said, pointing toward an old auto shop with a rusted sign that barely read Jay's Tires. The gate was half broken, chain hanging loose. I pushed the car through, killed the headlights, and rolled it to a stop behind the building. The engine coughed one last time before dying. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Just the sound of sirens in the distance, getting louder, then fading again. Red Eye leaned back in his seat, exhaled slow. "You did good, Lil Man." "Good." I snapped, my voice shaking. "They tried to kill us." He smirked. "Yeah, welcome to my world." I wanted to scream at him, to tell him I wasn't part of his damn world. But the words stuck in my throat, because deep down, I knew I was already in it. He pushed open the door, grabbed a duffel bag from the back, and stepped out. "Small, we can't stay in the open." I followed, my legs weak, my head spinning. The night air was thick with the smell of oil and trash. The shop looked abandoned, windows boarded up, graffiti everywhere. He found a side door, kicked it open, and motioned me inside. The place was dark except for a single hanging bulb flickering overhead. There were old tires, broken tools, and a dusty couch with springs poking out. Red Eye tossed the duffel bag on the workbench and unzipped it. Guns, ammo, stacks of cash, and 2 burner phones. I froze, staring at it. "What the hell are you into, man?" He chuckled quietly. "You skinned the wrong question. What the hell are you into now that you drive in my car?" I didn't answer. My throat was dry. I wanted to go home, but even thinking about it made me realize I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He took off his red hoodie. It was damp with sweat and blood. Not as I hoped. Beneath it, tattoos covered his arms, inked stories of war and loss. "You got a phone on you?" he asked. "Yeah," I said carefully. "Give it." I hesitated. He stared. I handed it over. He pulled out the SIM card, crushed it under his boot. "They can trace that. My mom might call. She'll think you spending the night at a friend's," he said coldly. Better she worry a little than bury you tomorrow. His words hit hard. He wasn't wrong, and that scared me more than anything. He started reloading a gun, sliding bullets into the clip with slow precision. The dudes who hit us tonight, they ain't regular Crips. They connected. Got someone feeding him info from inside. Cops maybe, or worse. I sat on the edge of the couch, my hands still trembling. Why would they use me? Because you invisible, he said simply. Nobody knows you. No record, no set, no heat. You the perfect ghost. They thought you'd die before you ever knew what hit you. He looked at me then, really looked like he was measuring my soul. You lucky I was in that back seat. Lucky, I said bitter. Feels more like cursed. He smirked. Maybe both. Time passed slow. Red, I made a call on one of his burners, speaking in code. Yeah, we lost 2 tails. Bring me the file from Boo's spot. Nah, don't come here. Too hot. When he hung up, I asked, so what now? He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Now we wait. My people gone check who's been moving cars like mine. Somebody sold me out. That means somebody close. I nodded slowly. You think it's that CeeLo dude? He chuckled darkly. CeeLo don't think. He just do what he told. If he called you, he just a messenger. I want to know who paid him. He walked over to the window, peeking through a crack in the boards. His eyes scanned the street, calm, focused, hunter-like. You ever kill somebody, Tyler? He asked suddenly. The question froze me. What? He turned around, studying me. You heard me. I shook my head. Nah, mun, never. He smiled faintly. Good. Keep it that way if you can. Something about the way he said it, not as a threat, but like advice, made me realize he wasn't just some monster. He'd seen things, done things, but there was something human buried deep in him. Hours passed. The city outside quieted, replaced by distant barking dogs and the hum of streetlights. My adrenaline faded, leaving only exhaustion. I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, I heard voices outside. Red, I was already on his feet, gun in hand, peeking through the window again. He held up a hand. Stay quiet. A car idled nearby, engine low. 2 men got out, blue hoodies, moving cautious. Crips. I recognized the colors. Red eyes, whisper cut through the dark. They found us. He motioned toward the back door. You got a choice. You can run, or you can stay and learn. I stared at him, my heart hammering. Learn what? How the streets really work. He moved like smoke, silent, precise. Grabbed his second pistol from his duffel and tossed it to me. I caught it clumsily. I can't. Point it if you have to, but don't freeze. I didn't even know how to hold the damn thing properly. But before I could argue, the front door creaked. Someone was trying to force it. Red, I took cover behind a stack of tires, motioning for me to duck behind the workbench. The door burst open. 2 figures stepped inside, flashlights sweeping the room. Yo, this the spot? One of them whispered. Yeah, the boss said the car came this way. Check the back. Red Eye waited, calm, patient. Then, as one turned, he fired twice. POP pop. One man dropped instantly. The other screamed, firing wildly. Bullets tore through the walls. I ducked, heart slamming against my ribs. The noise was deafening. Red Eye moved fast, sliding across the floor, popping another shot. The second man fell, groaning. Silence again, just heavy breathing and ringing ears. Red Eye stood, kicked the guns away from the bodies, and checked their pockets. He found a folded note, a picture of his car, and a scribbled address. He stared at it, jaw tightening. They knew exactly where I'd be. Somebody tipped him. He turned to me. You still think this was just about a car? I couldn't speak. My stomach churned. The smell of gunpowder mixed with blood. He sighed, dragging one of the bodies toward the door. Help me with this. I hesitated. He gave me a look that said, don't make me ask twice. Together, we hauled them outside, dumped them behind the dumpster. The night swallowed them up. When we came back in, he wiped his hands, sat down on the couch like nothing happened. You good? He asked. No, I said quietly. I ain't good at all. He smirked. First time's always rough. You'll get used to it. I don't want to get used to it. He looked at me, Serious now. Then don't make the same mistake twice. You want fast money? Well, now you know the cost. Out here, every dollar's got blood on it. He pulled a bottle of water from the bag and handed it to me. I drank, hands shaking. Then he leaned forward. Listen, Tyler, I ain't your enemy. The people who sent you, they the ones you should be scared of. They got cops on payroll, politicians too. They've been trying to clean the streets by any means, even if it means killing their own. I frowned. Cops? He nodded. Some of them. There's a task force working both sides, playing Crips and Bloods against each other. They move drugs, guns, cars. Whole operation. They used you cause you nobody. No name. No set. I stared at him, trying to process it all. So what? You some kind of vigilante now? He laughed low. Hell nah. I'm just trying to survive like everybody else. But I ain't letting no cop run my block. His phone buzzed again. He answered, listening, then said, bring him. He hung up and looked at me. One of my boys got your friend. My blood went cold. CeeLo. He nodded. We gonna have a little talk. An hour later, headlights flashed outside. A beat-up Impala rolled in. Two men stepped out, dragging a third between them. CeeLo. He looked different now, face swollen, nose bleeding, eyes wide with fear. They shoved him into the shop. Red, I stood up slow, like a judge about to pass sentence. Look what we got here, he said. Lil Crip messenger boy. CeeLo spat blood. You think you tough because you got goons? You dead, Red Eye. They coming for you. Red Eye smiled. They already came, and now I'm coming back. He nodded to his men. Leave us. They walked out, closing the door. The room felt smaller. Red Eye crouched in front of CeeLo, his voice low. You know, I don't even blame you for playing messenger, but I need a name. Who paid you? CeeLo smirked, even through the pain. You'll find out soon enough. Red Eye's tone darkened. Wrong answer. He grabbed a wrench from the table, held it up just enough to catch the light. Yo. I stepped forward. You don't gotta. He shot me a look that froze me in place. You don't know what I gotta do, kid. Stay out of this. He leaned close to CeeLo. Last chance. CeeLo's eyes darted to me, desperate. Yo, Tyler, tell him I ain't. Crack. The wrench hit the floor beside him, inches from his face. Red Eye's voice stayed calm. Name. CeeLo was shaking now. All right. Some dude named Darnell. He said it was big money if I found someone who could boost a charger. He gave me your plate number, man. I didn't know it was you. Red Eye straightened, eyes narrowing. Darnell, that dirty cop. He turned to me. Now we got what we need. CeeLo coughed. What you gonna do with me? Red, I stared at him for a long moment. Then he walked away. Nothing. You already did it to yourself. He nodded to me. Let's go. I froze. What about him? He ain't my problem no more. Something in his tone told me it was over for CeeLo, one way or another. We stepped outside into the night. The air felt colder. The city lights flickered on the horizon, silent witnesses to everything we'd done. Red Eye lit another cigarette, his face half in shadow. You still with me, kid? I hesitated. Do I got a choice? He smiled faintly. You always got a choice. You just might not like the options. I looked back at the shop, at the blood on the floor, at the life I didn't mean to step into. That's when I realized there was no going back. By the time dawn started breaking over the cracked rooftops, Red Eye had a plan. We gone find Darnell, he said. But first, we need something he wants. What's that? He looked at me, eyes hard. Proof. The kind that ends careers. He opened his duffel bag and pulled out a USB drive, holding it up like it was a weapon. This got every dirty deal, every payoff, every name. I just gotta finish it. Then we burr 'em all. I stared at the drive, realizing how deep this went. This wasn't some street beef. This was a war between the system and the streets themselves. And I was right in the middle of it. When the sun finally rose, Red, I stepped out of the garage, stretching his neck. Get some rest, lil man. We move in tonight. Where we going? He smirked. To see a man about a bulletproof plan. He walked off toward the light, red hoodie glowing in the morning haze like blood against the sky. I watched him go, feeling the weight of everything on my shoulders. I wasn't just a broke kid anymore. I was part of something dark, something real, and the streets, they were just getting started. I didn't know how far I could be pushed until that night. You know, the kind of pain that settles in your chest like a rock. Heavy, cold, and impossible to move? That's what fear felt like at first. But fear turns into something else when you're forced to act. It either eats you alive, or it teaches you to survive in ways you never thought you could. Red Eye said we were going to move that night, that we needed proof, a drive that could burn a lot of people from the inside out. He called it a bulletproof plan, like it was a thing you could carry in your pocket and then hand over to the world to make things right. I want to believe it. I wanted to believe there could be some clean into all the dirt, the lies, the cops with their palms greased. But the streets had a way of turning even truth into a weapon. We left the garage just as the sun slipped behind a bank of clouds. The air had that tired, late afternoon feel like even God didn't want to be here. My body ached from the adrenaline that had kept me going the whole last day, but sleep wasn't an option, not with the kind of people we were about to meet. Red Eye drove, of course. He always drove. The Charger seemed like an extension of him, a black silhouette swallowing the night. He sat low behind the wheel, red cap pulled down, hoodie up, and for a while I watched his jaw work, saw the slow twitch when he was thinking. I tried to match his calm on the outside, but inside I felt like glass, ready to shatter. "You ready?" he asked finally, not looking at me. I swallowed, as ready as I'll ever be. He clicked his tongue. Good. No room for as ready. Out here, you either ready or you dead. We rolled through neighborhoods that were ghosts of daylight. Stoops full of old folks watching the world turn. Kids playing tag with a tire in a cracked lot. Neon signs flickering like teeth. We pulled up outside a motel that looked like it hadn't been touched since the 70s. Bad carpet, crooked signs, a flickering vacancy light that buzzed like it was on its last breath. This was Darnell's kind of place, I guessed. The kind of place where deals get made and disappearances start. Red Eye parked 2 doors down and killed the engine. He turned to me, his face half in shadow and half in the orange sheen from the motel sign. "You stay here unless I tell you to move," he said. "I thought we going in together," I said, surprised. He gave me a look I'd start to recognize as his final decision face. "You ain't going in. You're the ghost. You keep the car running. If something goes wrong, I need you to make this Charger disappear. You understand?" I nodded. The Charger was my anchor now, my only way out if everything burned. "Okay." He handed me a small, flat pack, a bottle of water, a wrapped sandwich, a small black face mask. "You ever wear a mask before?" he asked. "Only at Halloween," I said, trying to laugh. He didn't. "That's not funny. If they see your face, they'll know you. If they know you, they'll use you. This ain't a movie, Tyler." I put the mask on like someone putting on a uniform. The fabric smelled like smoke. I felt ridiculous and exposed and very, very small. Red, I vanished into the motel. He moved like a shadow in the hallway, his footsteps silent against stained carpet. I sat there in the driver's seat, hands in my lap, thinking about my mom and the look on her face when I told her I'd try to find some work. I thought about my sister and the way she laughed when she didn't worry about bills. The world I'd imagined for them, steady, normal, felt farther away than the stars. I wanted to be a hero to them. I wanted to fix everything with one big move and walk away like the movies. Instead, I was a footnote in someone else's plan. Minutes or hours passed. Time lost meaning. Then I saw him, Darnell. He walked out like he owned the place, in a dark suit that didn't belong in that motel, footsteps even and rehearsed. He had that kind of face, soft, dangerous, the cop's kind, the kind that smiled in court and served up warrants like appetizers. He was an older man, late 30s maybe, haircut close, hand steady. 2 men flanked him like bookends. And a third, younger, nervous, carried a bag that could have been a laptop bag or a rifle case. I couldn't see what was inside. Red Eye came out behind Darnell like a shadow of thunder. He moved up close and slapped Darnell on the shoulder like it was a friendly greeting. Darnell didn't flinch. He smiled, a small, practiced baring of teeth. Marcus, he said. He used a wrong name on purpose. Old games, old rules. Heard you been busy. Red Eye looked him in the eye like he was trying to read the man's soul and finding receipts and lies there. You still playing both sides, Darnell? Darnell's smile thinned. You know me. I keep my options open. That was their handshake, an exchange of the kind of ugliness that had been making the city sick for years. Bribes, setups, moves that fed the war and fed nothing else. I got a file, Red Eye said suddenly. Something big. Don't mean to brag, but it would make some men look very stupid in front of certain people. Darnell's eyes darted to Red Eye's hand, like he thought the man might be holding something. Red Eye's hand was empty. He smiled and nodded like a man who loved the theater of it. You play a dangerous game, Darnell said softly. Red Eye shrugged. Everything worth doing is dangerous. Darnell's men laughed low. It was the kind of laugh that meant teeth were being sharpened. You want to make this public? Darnell asked. Red Eye cocked his head. Say it loud enough. The whole block knows what you are. For the first time that night, my stomach dropped. I imagined every cop who had ever smiled at me from across the street. Every officer who had looked past me and pretended not to see the kid selling mixtapes on the corner. I thought about every time the people who were supposed to protect us had taken a cut and laughed. The idea that someone could hold that truth and rattle it around like a lemon scared me. Darnell's laugh was dry. You want blood, Marcus? That's what you want. But blood costs. Red Eye's smile slowed into something colder. What's your price? Innocence, Darnell said. Walk away. Call a mistake. The city forgets mistakes. You serious? Red Eye's voice dropped. You want me to walk away from what they took? From the men they killed? You want to take the law into your own hands? Darnell asked. You'll get no justice. Only more heat. Only more death. Red Eye sighed, like he was tired of diplomacy. You and your boys set me up, Darnell. You sent them kids to take my car. They tried to use a kid as bait. Darnell's gaze flicked to me through the crowd like I was an insect caught in amber. We don't play games with kids. You did tonight, Red Eye said. You used him. My throat closed. I felt my cheeks flush. I wanted to say something, to tell Darnell I hadn't meant to touch his car. But the words died inside me. It was one thing to be used. It was another to watch the men who used me smile about it. Darnell's smile faded. He stepped closer, 2 inches at most, and spoke in a voice made to cut through men's armor. You produced the file, Marcus, or you come home in a body bag. Simple. Red Eye's laugh came out like wind through a grate. You think you can scare me, Darnell? You think you can walk me into the ground? Tell me something I don't know. Darnell's jaw tightened. You're dangerous because you think you're untouchable. But everyone has a price, Marcus, including you. Red Eye's hand twitched like a dog on a leash. For a moment, I thought it would end right there. A gun pulled from a holster, a bullet in some warm spot, and the world tilting. But then something else happened. Darnell smiled that same slow smile and tipped his head. Eat, Marcus, he said. Look, this can be easy. Leave the city, take a couple folks with you. We'll forget the charger. We'll forget the men who died tonight. Walk away. Marcus, Red Eye, looked at me. His eyes were unreadable for a second. Then he turned away like a man who had decided something private. He stepped back, nodded at Darnell. We'll talk. Darnell's men opened the motel door and motioned us in like this was a friendly negotiation. We followed into a dim room that smelled of stale smoke and cheap perfume. The clock on the wall ticked loud. Darnell poured drinks, sliding a small glass toward Red. I like it was poison or medicine, I couldn't tell. We sat at opposite sides of a cheap table where the light looked worst on people. Darnell was smooth, grease under his nails you could wash with money. Red, I sat stiff, like a statue that had seen too much and now only wanted names. When Darnell left the room to make a call, Red Eye leaned forward and whispered, "This is where choices happen." Choices. Such a small word for something that would break you. You got the drive? Darnell asked when he returned. He placed a small black flash drive on the table like a question mark. Red Eye inhaled. I got the file. Darnell smiled like a guy who just landed a plane on a small runway. Give it to me, and we walk away. Everyone survives. Red, I looked at the drive like it might bite. He closed his eyes for a second, then said no. The word landed like thunder in a silent room. The two men at Darnell's side shifted. Darnell's eyes narrowed. You serious? Red Eye nodded. I ain't selling out. Darnell's hand moved slowly, a tiny, deliberate motion. In a heartbeat, the two men flanking him drew, guns low. Red Eye's reflex was lightning. He slapped the table in dove, his body a blur. Bullets tore into cheap wallpaper, and the mirror cracked like the sound of bones. I barely registered what was happening until I heard Red Eye curse, a sound that turned my stomach. One of Darnell's men had slashed at him with a knife and nicked his arm. The room erupted into chaos. The two thugs fired wildly. Red Eye rolled, firing back with a calm I'd come to fear and worship at the same time. I moved without thinking, ducking under the table, hands pressed to the cheap wood as splinters bit my palms. If I'd been in any other life, I'd be dead. That's the ugly truth. By some miracle, or because Red Eye was a man of war, we got out. The Charger roared to life, tires screaming through the motel lot, glass and gravel spraying behind us like confetti at a funeral. Red Eye's arm bled, dark on the red hoodie. He swore under his breath, stitched his sleeve up with a bandage like it was old hat. We drove, both of us moving on raw adrenaline and a sense that nothing was safe anymore. The next few days were a haze. We moved from safe house to safe house, each one a different flavor of decay. The USB drive sat in Red Eye's pocket like an accusation. We made plans. Red Eye's men picked at the threads of the network that Darnell had been part of. We watched, we listened, we waited. In the meantime, I tried to keep my head down to be the ghost he wanted me to be. But being the ghost was harder than I thought. People saw things whether you wanted them to or not. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the motel room, the flash of metal, the look on Darnell's face, the same cold person who'd met mothers in PDA meetings and cops over coffee, who could smile with one hand and pull a trigger with the other. It made my stomach turn. There was a hollowness there that money couldn't fill. And then it happened. Red Eye got a call. The number was short, a burner. He answered, listened, then his face went like a knife. They got Boo, he said. Boo was one of his guys, a loyal runner, a kid with a laugh and too many debts. Red Eye's jaw clenched. Where? Warehouse on Avalon, the voice said. They took him to talk. Darnell's boys. Red Eye didn't say anything else. He slammed the phone down so hard the screen cracked. He looked at me. You ever been to a place and felt like you were standing on the edge of a cliff? Yeah, I said, when I stole the Charger. He nodded. This taller. He found a bottle of whiskey, took a long swallow like he was swallowing courage. We drove hard, fast. The city blurred into a smear of lights. I felt a cold knot of dread tighten in my gut. This was where the choices we'd made would either save someone or ruin us for good. The Avalon warehouse was a slab of concrete that sat with too many secrets. It smelled like old oil and sweat, the kind of place where men solve problems with iron and silence. Red, I parked in the shadows, and we crept like hunters. He handed me a pistol and said, no hero shit. If you move, move because I tell you to. If you don't, you die. We slipped through a side door and found Boo, bound to a chair, bruises mapping his face, one eye swollen shut. Two men watched him like vultures. A third, younger guy, was filming on his phone, his face lit by the blue glow like he was sending a postcard. Red, I stepped out of the shadows and moved like a goddamn storm. He hit them so fast the first man didn't have time to scream. Boo's eyes went wide like a kid seeing Santa Claus. Then he groaned as Red, I cut his ropes. We were all elbows and quiet movement, like the world had condensed into this moment. But as we turned to leave, lights flooded the room, headlights cutting the dark into knives. A swarm of police cruisers surrounded the warehouse, lights strobing, sirens screaming like an animal that wouldn't be silenced. Darnell's reach, I realized with a cold clarity, was wider than we thought. He called in the state to clean up the mess and walk away with Darnell's pockets full. Men screamed. Red Eye cursed under his breath. Boo scurried toward an exit, clutching at his shirt. I felt panic crow like a rooster. The policemen pushed in like they owned the place, and for a brief, awful second, it looked like the whole plan was collapsing. We ran. Red Eye aimed, fired. I don't know how many shots rang out. I don't even want to count in my head. All I remember is the blazing hot fear and the way men shouted and fell. I remember Boo's face as he ran, and then the bright flare of pain when one of the officers took aim. He went down like someone switching off a lamp. The world slowed and thudded, and then it was chaos. One of the cops looked at me as we ran past, eyes narrowed. He didn't fire. Maybe he didn't need to. Maybe he already had a face to attach to all of this. But as we hit the alley and I heard the distant thud of radios, I knew something else. That nothing about this would ever be clean. Not for Boo, not for me, and not for Red Eye. We made it away that night, but it wasn't victory. Boo was gone. The warehouse was a crime scene now, not a battlefield. And Darnell had stepped back into the shadows like a spider satisfied. Red Eye's hands were slick with failure and something deeper. He swore like a man who had lost a chess match because someone burned the board. That night, as we sat in the back of a church basement one of his people used as a hideout, Red Eye bled slow into his bandage. I propped my head on my knees and thought about what I'd done. I'd stolen a car. I'd driven away from a drop. I'd been the ghost behind a move that ended with a kid on the floor. Red Eye watched me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw him softer. He thumbed the USB drive with fingers that shook. "You did good," he said, but the words sounded like an apology. "What now?" I asked. He thought for a long time. "We strike smarter. We gather. We expose. And if we can't expose, we get payback. Not all payback is blood, but some of it gotta be." I wanted to tell him I didn't want payback. I wanted to tell him I wanted to go home, to sleep in my own bed, to pretend none of this had happened. But the truth was I was already too deep, and the people who had pulled the strings were still out there. "You okay?" I asked because I cared about the man who had saved my life even if he'd dragged me into hell to do it. He looked at me, then smiled the way someone does when they try to find humor in a grave. "I ain't never been okay, kid. I just learned to bend without breaking. You think we'll make it?" I asked. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the USB drive, and held it between us like it was a tiny, heavy sun. "I don't know, but I know one thing. If we go down fighting." I nodded. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to close my eyes and wrap myself in the lies that told me there was some justice at the end of this road. But the truth had already started to peel the layers off me. It showed me who I was beneath the hoodie and the small dreams. It showed me that sometimes the cost of survival was the thing you were trying to save. That night, I lay awake and watched Red Eye patch his arm, heard him breathe the way men do when they're keeping demons at bay. I thought about Boo and CeeLo and every name that had become a number. I thought about Darnell smiling in a motel room like the world owed him something. And I knew this. The streets had already taken pieces of me. I could feel the edges of who I'd been chipping away. There are moments in life where you cross a line and can't go back. When your hands are stained and the water can't wash them clean. That night in the church basement, one of those moments. I wasn't a kid who stole to help his mom anymore. I was a player on a board that didn't have rules I understood. And the cliff in front of me was getting closer every minute. I couldn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, not exactly. It was more like my nerves were wired, like someone ran live current through my veins. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw that alley, the two hitters sliding up on Red Eye, that flash of metal, and the way he moved cold and smooth, like he'd been doing this his whole life. The sound of gunfire echoed in my skull like thunder that never stopped. When morning finally cracked through the busted blinds, I was still sitting on the couch, staring at the floor. The air in that garage felt heavy with silence and burnt gunpowder. Red, I was already up, cleaning his gun on the workbench like it was just another morning at the office. You still think this just about a stolen car? He asked without looking up. I didn't answer. He smirked. That's what I thought. He slid the clip into the pistol, racked it once, then set it down. Listen, Tyler, you're in it now, whether you like it or not. Those dudes last night, they ain't stopping. The people that paid you to jack that ride, they ain't random. They from my world. They just too scared to face me head on. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. So what? I'm supposed to believe this was some kind of setup just to smoke you. That's exactly what it was, he said. They knew I don't drive my own car no more. They knew I send young bloods to move my whips when I switch spots. So they planted you, made you the delivery boy, thinking I'd be too dumb to see through it. That hit hard. I didn't want to believe I was played like that, but deep down, it made sense. The way the job came out of nowhere. No face-to-face. Just a text from a number that went dead after I said yes. Who are they? I asked quietly. Red Eye smiled that cold smile again. People that used to be brothers. He stood up, zipped his red hoodie, and looked me dead in the eyes. You ready to find out who really paid you? I hesitated. What if I say no? He chuckled. Then you might as well disappear. 'Cause they already think you did your job. Which means any minute now, someone's gonna come collect. We rolled out in a beat-up black Impala that still smelled like gas and smoke. The streets of Compton were half awake. Early sunlight bouncing off graffiti walls. Dogs barking behind fences, sprinklers hissing over dead grass. Red Eye kept his hand on the wheel and his eyes on the mirrors. We didn't talk much. I just watched the world blur past. The liquor store on 135th, the corner where the homies used to post up, the same cracked sidewalks I'd been walking since I was a kid. But everything felt different now, like the city was watching me back. He pulled into a back alley behind a faded laundromat. A couple of bloods were already there. You could tell by the red accents, the bandanas tied on rearview mirrors, the way they stood like wolves waiting for orders. One of them, tall with dreads and a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward. Ain't seen you in a minute, Red. Thought you was ghosted. Almost was, Red Eye said. 'Cause somebody tried to make that happen. The guy's eyes slid toward me. And who's this? Don't worry about him, Red Eye said flat. He's the reason I'm still breathing. They got me a few side eyes. They went inside the laundromat, through a door in the back that led to a dim room full of crates, smoke, and the smell of gun oil. Red Eye sat at the head of a metal table, the others circling up. Word is, he said, voice low but sharp, somebody out here playing God. Paying off little hustlers to move cars, pass messages, set traps, all leading back to me. The room went quiet. Then the guy with dreads spoke. You think it's Reggie? Red, I nodded slowly. Reggie been trying to climb the ladder since day one. He got connections with the Crenshaw side now, trying to link up with Crips. He think if he cuts me out, he gets the throne. The air went cold. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. So what's the move? The dreadhead asked. Red Eye looked at me. We hit back. Tonight. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't want to be part of it. Every instinct in me said walk away. But something about the way Red Eye carried himself. He didn't just act like a killer. He acted like someone with a code. Like he believed there was a line, and someone crossed it. As the day passed, I found myself helping them gear up, checking clips, packing duffel bags, listening to whispered plans. The tension was thick, but controlled. These dudes weren't wild. They were soldiers. That night, the air outside was still heavy with heat. We rolled up in 2 cars, one black, one red, engines low, lights off. The target was an old auto shop on Central where Reggie's crew was known to hang out. I could hear my heart pounding as we parked a block away. Red, I leaned over. You stay close. Don't pull unless you gotta. We ain't here to start a war. We here to end a betrayal. I nodded, but my hand was shaking. We moved through the shadows, slow, quiet. The smell of motor oil and cigarette smoke drifted from the shop. Through the half-open bay door, I could see figures laughing, bottles clinking, music low but steady. Then Red, I stepped forward. Joe, Rig here. The laughter stopped. A tall dude in a red and black tracksuit turned around. His face twisted when he saw Red Eye. Damn, he said. Ain't you supposed to be dead? Almost was, Red Eye said. But your plan ain't as clean as you thought. Reggie smirked, playing it cool. You paranoid, old man. Ain't nobody trying to kill you. That right? Red Eye said. He motioned toward me. Then maybe you can tell me why this kid got paid to steal my ride. Reggie's eyes flicked to me, and in that second I saw it. Recognition, guilt, maybe even fear. He laughed, but it was hollow. Man, you don't even know this dude. Could be lying. I know a lie when I hear one, Red Eye said, stepping closer. You try to set me up with outsiders. You wanted them to finish the job so your hands stayed clean. Reggie reached under his jacket, and that's when everything exploded. Gunfire ripped through the air. The bay door sparks lit up like fireworks. I dove behind a toolbox as glass shattered above me. Red Eye moved like smoke. One shot, two shots, each one hitting its mark. When the dust settled, Reggie was on the floor, clutching his stomach. His crew was gone, either dead or running. Red Eye stood over him, gun still raised. You was supposed to be family, he said quietly. Reggie coughed blood. You don't own the block, Red. You just another ghost in it. Red Eye's hand tightened. I looked away. Then I heard the shot. We drove off in silence. The city lights slid across the windshield like ghosts drifting through smog. Red Eye's face was calm. Too calm. I couldn't hold it in anymore. You didn't have to kill him. He looked at me, eyes tired but steady. He made his choice. In this world, you betray blood. You answer for it. I shook my head. You sound just like them. All of you. He sighed. Maybe. But that's the only language the streets understand. I stared out the window, jaw tight. The more I thought about it, the more it hit me. I was standing in the middle of a story that never ends. A circle of violence spinning on the same axis since before I was born. When we got back to the garage, Red Eye poured a drink, sat down, and said, You did good tonight. I laughed bitterly. Good? Ivetchit Amandi. You watch a traitor get what he earned, he said flat. Then softer. And you learned how fast this life eats you if you don't watch your back. He leaned forward. You still got a choice, Tyler. You can walk away now, before this block writes your ending too. But the truth was, I didn't know if I could. The money I owed, the people I'd crossed, this was the only world that still had a place for me. As the night dragged on, I found myself staring at that same red bandana hanging off the chair. The same one that meant power, loyalty, blood. Red, I noticed my stare. If you're gonna wear it, he said quietly, make sure you know what it costs. A few days passed, and the streets buzzed with talk. Reggie was gone. His crew vanished. The balance had shifted again, and Red Eye's name was back in whispers, like a ghost that refused to fade. But something else changed too. People started looking at me different. The kid who jacked the wrong car, now riding with the man who ran the block. I wasn't proud, but I wasn't running either. One night, we were posted outside a liquor store on Rosecrans when Red Eye got a call. He listened, jaw tightening. They found another one, he said. Someone else in on the setup. He hung up, looked at me. You ready to finish this? My stomach turned. Who is it? He didn't answer, just drove. The air grew thicker with every block we passed. The deeper we went, the more I recognized the streets, until I realized exactly where we were heading. The house. The same one where I picked up the car that night. The beginning of all this. Red Eye parked across the street. The windows were dark. Stay here, he said, stepping out. But I didn't. I followed. We crept around the back, through a side gate. The back door was cracked open. Inside, I heard voices low, urgent. Then I froze. One of them was familiar. Man, I told y'all it worked, a voice said. The kid took the bait. Red Eye gone, we clean. It was the dude who gave me the job. Before I could process it, Red Eye kicked the door in. Chaos erupted. Guns up, people screaming. I dropped to the floor as shots fired across the living room. The smell of smoke and wood splinters filled the air. When it was over, only two were left breathing, me and Red Eye. He stood over the last man, the one who set me up. You thought you could play me and this kid both, Red Eye said. You forgot who you dealing with. The man was bleeding bad, eyes wide. It wasn't personal, Red Eye aimed. That's the problem. It always is. Another shot. And just like that, it was over. We stood there in silence, surrounded by smoke and broken glass. My ears rang. My hands shook. I looked at Red Eye, waiting for him to say something, anything. But all he said was, "Now you see it, don't you?" I swallowed hard. See what? How the block eats good men. How it turns loyalty into bullets. He walked past me, out into the night. I followed, the smell of gunfire still clinging to my clothes. The sky over Compton was dark red from city glow, like it was bleeding too. Red Eye stopped at the curb, looked back at me. "You wanted money," he said. "Now you got blood on your hands. That's the real price." I didn't answer. He tossed me the car keys, the same ride I once stole. "Drive," he said, "and this time make it count." That night, as we disappeared into the empty streets, I realized something. I wasn't just part of his story anymore. I was writing my own, one that started with a car, a gun, and a choice I couldn't take back. And the streets? They never forget who you become once you pull that first trigger. The streets felt quieter after that night, too quiet. It was the kind of silence that didn't mean peace, just aftermath. The kind that sits heavy in your chest, waiting for the next sound of sirens. We laid low for a few days, sleeping in different spots, cheap motels, back garages, wherever the noise couldn't find us. Red Eye said the job was done, but I could see it in his face. The war wasn't over, it just changed shape. He spent hours on the phone, whispering to names I didn't know. The city moved different now. Every corner felt like a test. Bloods on high alert, Crips restless, cops crawling through alleys with itchy trigger fingers. Me? I couldn't shake the image of those bodies. Reggie, the guy who gave me the job. All of them, every one of them had something in common. They all thought they were untouchable till the streets called their debt due. And I was starting to feel like my name was next on the list. We were sitting in that same garage, the air thick with motor oil and regret. Red, I was drinking from a glass bottle, staring at nothing. "You thinking about them?" I asked. He smirked. "Always. But don't get it twisted, I ain't losing sleep. I just know how this game ends." "Ow," I said. He looked at me, deep, tired eyes that had seen too much, with either a grave or a ghost. "Ain't no retirement plan out here, Tyler. Just how many people remember your name when you gone?" I stared at the floor. "You ever think about leaving?" He laughed, not out of humor, but pain. "Leave where?" "The block ain't a place, it's a curse. Even if you go, it follows." That stuck with me. Later that night, when he finally passed out on the couch, I went through my phone. That same number, the one that sent me the job, was still in there. Deadline. But when I looked closer, I saw something else. Another text, sent a few hours after the setup went down. "If you survived, you know too much." My blood went cold. Whoever ran, this wasn't done. They didn't just want Red Eye dead. They wanted to clean the trail, me included. The next morning, I told Red Eye. He took a long drag off a cigarette, thinking. "Then they coming for you," he said. "Not us. You." I frowned. "Why me?" "Because you the loose end. You're not one of us, not one of them. You the bridge that burned both sides." He stood up, put his gun in his waistband. "That's why you gotta leave." "Leave where?" "Out of state. Somewhere they can't reach you. Take the car, take the cash. You did more for me than most my own blood ever did." I shook my head. "You think it's that simple? After everything?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "It's the only way you stay alive." We argued for hours. I didn't want to run. Not after everything I'd seen, everything I'd been dragged through. But Red Eye wasn't trying to hear it. "Kid, listen," he said finally, voice low but sharp. "You got a chance I never had. You touched fire, but it ain't too late to pull your hand back. You keep playing my game, you're gonna end up just another story they tell at cookouts, the one that almost made it." He grabbed his keys, threw them at me. "Take the Impala. Go north. Forget my name." I wanted to say something, to thank him, curse him, something, but nothing came out. So I just nodded. That was the last time I saw him alive. 2 days later, I was on the road, heading out of Compton. The city skyline disappeared behind me like a fading heartbeat. I told myself I was free. that I could start over. But the thing about the streets, they got long arms. And memories even longer. Somewhere outside Bakersfield, a black SUV started following me. I thought I was tripping at first, but every time I switched lanes, it stayed right there. Close. Waiting. I hit the gas. The Impala roared, tires screaming against the asphalt. But the SUV matched me. I could see the glint of metal through the tinted window. My pulse spiked. I swung into a rest stop, slammed the door, and ran behind the vending machines. The SUV pulled in slow. Doors opened. Two men stepped out, clean suits, no colors. Not gangbangers. Profesionales. One of them called out, "Tyler, right?" I didn't answer. "We don't want to kill you," he said. "We just need to talk." "Yeah, right?" That's how it always starts. They split up, moving slow, scanning every corner. When one passed too close, I grabbed a tire iron off the ground and swung hard. He dropped, gasping. The other pulled a gun, firing wild, bullets tearing through the vending machines. I ducked, sprinted toward the Impala, jumped in, and peeled out before they could reload. The rear window shattered behind me, and as I sped off, the world felt smaller, darker. Like no matter how far I drove, Compton was still sitting in the passenger seat. That night, I crashed at a cheap motel near Fresno. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept thinking about Red Eye, about what he said. The block ain't a place, it's a curse. I turned on the TV just for noise. That's when I saw it. Local gang leader found dead in warehouse fire. Authorities suspect arson. Red hoodie, tattoos, red eye. I froze. My chest felt like it collapsed in on itself. They got him. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the flickering screen, unable to move. The man who saved my life, who pulled me out of one setup just to get trapped in another, was gone. And somehow, I knew it wasn't random. That fire wasn't just revenge. It was a message. I went back. I know I shouldn't have, but I couldn't stay away. The next night, I drove straight down the 110 back into the belly of the block. Compton didn't welcome me. It swallowed me whole. The warehouse was still smoking when I got there. Yellow tape fluttered in the wind. The smell of burnt wood and gasoline hung heavy. I parked a few blocks away and walked. There was nothing left but ashes and twisted metal. And in the middle of it, lying half buried under the rubble, was Red Eye's chain, the one with the small cross. I picked it up, wiped off the soot, and just stood there. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. "You shouldn't have come back." I turned around. It was the same man from the rest stop, the one in the suit. He had a gun pointed at me. "I told you we didn't want to kill you," he said. "But now you've made it complicated." "Who sent you?" I asked. He smiled slightly. "The same people that paid for that car to be stolen. Let's just say, Red, I wasn't the only target. He was just a loud one." It clicked. The organization that used me, that used him, wasn't just gang-related. It was bigger, something deeper. Money laundering, drugs, politics, the whole web that kept the block bleeding. "So what now?" I said. "You gonna clean up your mess?" He shrugged. "Pretty much." He raised the gun. And then, crack. His body jerked back, blood blooming across his shirt. He fell hard. Behind him stood someone I didn't expect to see. Lil Tone, one of Red Eye's old soldiers. Couldn't let him finish what they started. Tone said, walking up, gun still smoking. "Red told me if anything ever happened to him, find you." I stared at him. "Why me?" He said, "You had a heart. Said you ain't built for this life, but you the only one who could tell the story right." Tone handed me a folded piece of paper. He wrote this before it went down. Said you'd know when to open it. I took it, hands trembling. "You good?" Tone asked. I nodded. "No," I said quietly, "but I will be." He smirked, patted my shoulder, and walked off into the darkness. Later, I sat on the curb, the city still glowing red in the distance. I unfolded the note. It was short, just a few lines, scrawled in Red Eye's sharp handwriting. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. You got two choices: run from the streets or speak for them. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't let silence kill the truth." I stared at those words until they blurred. For the first time in a long time, I felt something I didn't recognize. Not anger, not fear, just purpose. Maybe I couldn't erase what I did. Maybe I couldn't change what happened. But I could tell it, all of it, the way it really was. Not how people pretended to be on TV, not how outsiders romanticized the pain. Just raw truth. A few months later, I was living in a small apartment in Inglewood, working nights at a body shop. Nothing fancy, just enough to breathe. Every time I walked home, I'd pass by murals, faces of fallen soldiers, painted in color, fading under sun and dust. And sometimes I'd stop and touch the wall, whispering names nobody remembered anymore. That's when I knew, maybe Red, I wasn't wrong. Maybe the block is a curse, but it's also a memory, and memories don't die unless you let him. So I started recording. Just me, my voice, and the truth. Stories from a block. Not for fame, not for likes, but because someone had to keep it real. Someone had to tell how a broke kid trying to make rent ended up driving straight into hell and somehow made it out breathing. Sometimes I still dream about that night. The car, the gun, the man in the back seat. I wake up sweating, thinking I hear sirens. But then I remember that life is behind me. Mostly, I still keep Red Eye's chain in my pocket. Not as a trophy, as a warning. A reminder that every shortcut has a cost. And the streets always collect what's owed. The last time I went back to Compton, I parked near the block where it all started. The kids were out, playing ball, laughing like the world wasn't ready to crush them yet. I smiled, even if it hurt, because for a second, I saw myself in them. Before the deaths, before the fear, before the blood. And I realized something Red I never got to see. You can't save the block by owning it. You save it by surviving it. As I drove away, the sun dipped behind the palm trees, painting the sky blood red. And for the first time, I didn't see danger in that color. I saw remembrance. I saw loyalty. I saw him. Red Eye, the man who tried to escape the streets, and the one who taught me how to live long enough to tell their story. They say every block got ghosts, but the truth is, some ghosts never leave. They just find new voices to speak through. So here I am, telling it the only way I know how. Real, unfiltered, from the heart of the struggle. Because this ain't just my story. It's our story. Every one of us who ever tried to outrun the life. And learn the streets, don't forget.